Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. This is Africa Today. My name is Nahabe Kajura. Here is a quick look at the headlines. Court clears Bobi Wine in illegal admission to Makerere University case. And government wins case to have General Sejusa back in the army. Protesters in Khartoum defiant despite crackdown. In our sports news today, Boss is sacked by experts as coach. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, the Law Development Centre Magistrates Court in Kampala has allowed the Director of Public Prosecutions to withdraw the illegal admission to Makerere University case against Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu alias Bobi Wine. We have the details. Lawyer Malema Bilizi ran to court and filed a case against Kyagulanyi, who graduated from the university over 20 years ago with a diploma in music, dance and drama that the lawyer says he obtained fraudulently since the singer cum politician was not eligible for admission to the university. Mabilizi alleged that Kyagulanyi, who was then 20 years old, was on October 21, 2000, registered as a student of MDD on a mature age entry scheme contrary to Makerere University prospectus of 1999 to 2000 to 2000-2001, in which it was stated that for one to be admitted for the mature age entry at the time, the candidate had to at least be 25 years old or one who had completed formal education at least 5 years before the year of admission to the university. However, the DPP took over prosecution of the case and later asked court to be allowed to withdraw the case. On Monday, the trial magistrate Augustine Alule ruled that the DPP is given powers to prosecute criminal matters and that the same has a right to discontinue charges. Alule said that the role of the court is only to consent in the event that the DPP wants to take over the private prosecution or discontinue proceedings from another person or authority. However, the following development, a lawyer Malema Bilizi said he will file a new case related to the same. Away from that, in our top stories today, the Court of Appeal has ruled in government's favor in a case in which the Attorney General sought to have former Coordinator of Intelligence Services, General David Sejusa, back in the army. Take a look at the story.
In 2020, Justice Margaret Oguli Owumo ruled that General Sejusa was entitled to constructive discharge by issuing him with a discharge certificate since he had ceased to be a serving officer in the army from the day his employer withdrew his salary, allowances and other benefits. The judge of the High Court declared that General Sejusa is no longer subject to military law and ordered government to pay him 750 million shillings as damages for violating his rights when he was arrested, detained, prosecuted and denied bail by the General Court Martial. However, following the judgment, the Attorney General ran to the Court of Appeal to challenge the finding. However, on Monday, a panel of 3 justices of the Court of Appeal, including Christopher Madrama, Irene Muliagunja, Monica Mgenyi, quashed the High Court decision. The justices say that having sought retirement from the army in November 2015, but got no response from the UPDF Commission's board within the mandatory 90 days, General Sejusa ought to have waited for feedback from the board before petitioning the High Court. The judges explained that the approval of the application to resign can be withheld on reasonable grounds and that the effect of not communicating the approval or disapproval of the application meant that General Sejusa continued to be a serving army officer. The Court of Appeal consequently overturned the judgment by Justice Margaret Owumo Oguli that had indicated that General Sejusa had been retired from the army.
Away from that, some opposition legislators have expressed disappointment that many of their colleagues are yet to append their signatures on the motion intended to censure the Minister for Security, Major General Jim Muhwezi, who is accused of doing nothing in the face of increasing human rights violations. Here is the report.
Only 31 opposition legislators had apprehended their signatures on the motion by February 14th. The motion requires at least 176 signatures for it to succeed. The campaign was launched on February 10 by the leader of opposition Mathias Mpuuga, but its lukewarm reception amongst opposition members is likely to let Muhwezi off the hook. It is not clear why some opposition members of parliament are dilly-dallying about signing the motion. Some of the opposition members we spoke to also accused Government Chief Whip Thomas Tayebwa of intimidating National Resistance Movement members of parliament against signing the motion. But Tayebwa said the grounds given by the opposition to censor Mkhwezi are too weak since it's not the minister who is directly involved in torturing the people.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Africa Today takes a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, Sudan's military authorities have arrested a former senior government official, a second time according to his party, as thousands of people took to the streets around the country on Monday to protest an October military coup. Take a look at the story.
The Unionist Alliance Party say that Mohamed Al-Faki Suleiman, a former member of the ruling Sovereign Council, was detained on Sunday in the capital Khartoum. It said security forces stopped his vehicle as he was heading from his home to the party's headquarters. Suleiman was also deputy head of a government-run agency tasked with dismantling the legacy of former autocratic President Omar al-Bashir's regime. The detentions have intensified in recent weeks as Sudan plunged into further turmoil with near-daily street protests since the coup. The takeover upended Sudan's transition to democratic rule that began after 3 decades of international isolation under al-Bashir, who was removed from power in 2019 after a popular uprising. Protesters once again marched in Khartoum and its twin city of Omdurman on Monday, demanding the establishment of a fully civilian government to lead the transition, according to the pro-democracy movement. It said that there were 3 protests in other cities too, including Port Sudan and Wad Madani. Security authorities in the capital have called on protesters to assemble in public squares to avoid more clashes with forces. A deadly crackdown on protesters has killed around 80 people and wounded 2,200 others since the coup, according to a Sudanese medical group.
Moving on, in international news, on Monday, thousands of Liberians celebrated the 200-year anniversary of the birth of the West African state with a mass rally in the capital, Monrovia. Now, President George Weah attended the celebrations alongside leaders from neighboring countries. Our reporter has more. Founded as a colony in 1822 by former U.S. slaves, Liberia became a republic 25 years later, becoming the continent's first republic in 1847. The celebration marks the arrival of the first free black Americans to Providence Island on January 7, 1822, which led to the establishment of the city of Monrovia, and in 1847 the Republic of Liberia. Between 1822 and the American Civil War in 1861, some 15,000 African Americans settled in Liberia. The West African nation became the first democratic republic in Africa's history upon 1847 independence. In January, when the U.S. State Department issued a statement to commemorate the initial arrival of African Americans to Liberia 200 years ago, it acknowledged the racist nature of the American Colonization Society. They are the group that purchased land in Liberia to resettle free black people in Africa in order to deal with the problem of growing number of free blacks in the United States. Liberia's bicentennial anniversary will be marked by a year-long set for activities through December of 2022 under the theme The Land of Return, commemorating 200 years of freedom and Pan-African leadership. The theme is intended to represent significant historical milestones achieved by the country since its founding. It commemorates Liberia as the land chosen as a refugee by free people of African descent who had endured years of servitude in the United States and where they chose to settle as their home country. It also aims to commemorate Black freedom and nationhood, as well as determination for self-governance that began 200 years ago with the establishment of Liberia. The bicentennial seeks to deepen U.S.-Liberia historical ties, forge stronger economic and social bonds between Liberians and Americans, and further U.S.-Liberian relations. Moving on, a group of 7 recently captured Senegalese soldiers have been released by separatist rebels from Senegal's Casamance region. More details in this report.
The soldiers were captured in the Gambia on January 24th after a clash with the separatist rebels that resulted in 4 dead among the Senegalese forces. The remaining 7 soldiers were captured and handed over on Monday to government and ECOWAS representatives in the Gambia. According to Senegalese military, the incident occurred during an operation to combat illegal logging on the border with the Gambia. The Movement of Democratic Forces of Casamance (MFDC) is behind a low-intensity breakaway conflict in Senegal's southern region of Casamance that dates back to 1982 and has claimed several thousand lives.
Away from that, tensions remained high this Monday in South Africa as parents and students gathered outside a school in Randfontein near Johannesburg to denounce alleged acts of racism committed at the school. The protest takes place after a fight broke out between 2 groups of students last Friday.
The incident was allegedly triggered when a white student used a derogatory term against a black student. Winnie Masike, one of the parents, said that they cannot accept to stand and watch in 2020 a black child still being called a kafir, a derogatory word used to refer to a black person. The police had to resort to water cannons to disperse the crowds. Representatives from political parties and law enforcement agencies were also present during the protest. Some claim that racism is a long-standing problem. Peter Makochali, a grandparent, said that he heard what parents were saying and added that the racism in that school apparently comes from long time ago. The school released a statement during the weekend to deplore the incident and announced that investigations are already underway.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back for the break. It's watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, centuries-old manuscripts and scrolls are being offered on websites for a few $100s, raising suspicion on the conditions of their acquisition. In Ethiopia, the latest victims of the year-long war in Tigray are the country's rich artifacts.
Centuries-old manuscripts and scrolls are being offered on websites for a few $100s, raising suspicion on the conditions of their acquisition. Experts suspect they have been plundered during the conflict. Ethiopian philologist Dr. Hagos Abba Abbey published a first comprehensive analysis of the looting, revealing churches, monasteries, and other significant sites were targeted during the war. The trafficking of Ethiopian cultural goods existed, but since the war between the TPLF and federal authorities started, a surge in ancient artifacts for sale was observed. American corporation eBay removed its platform a number of rare Ethiopian items with no evidence of provenance after it was contacted by journalists. It is unclear how many objects were stolen, but professors have recommended internet users to upload the information to the Interpol Stolen Works of Art database if they come across Ethiopian objects adverts. Negotiations on a ceasefire between Ethiopia's government and Tigray forces have yet to take place.
Tracking Health, in November 2021, the UN's World Food Programme and Food and Agriculture Organization said the food crisis in the DRC touched a quarter of the vast country's population, nearly 27 million people, and those suffering were not just in the country's conflict zones in the east, but in and around the capital to the west.
Last year, the World Food Programme teamed up with the United Nations Children's Agency and the government to help locals buy food. Between March and December 2021, they gave at least $400 in cash to 21,000 households. Mathilde Vlicia, World Health Food Programme Director for the Democratic Republic of Congo, told journalists that the project, which helped feed 130,000 individuals, aimed to change people's lives and make them more independent. Mani Kinuti locals say the money went on basic necessities, food, schooling for their children, medical treatment. Some, like food stall holder Elisei Nguzi, managed to invest some of the cash in more long-term income-generating activities. Pululu Maimona, a farmer who owns 20 acres of forest and has ambitions of starting pig production, poured his aid cash into a fish farming project he started in 2019. COVID restrictions, lockdowns, curfews, market shutting downs have added to the economic woes of this already fragile region. The World Food Programme said that Nsele district, where Kinduti is situated, faces food stress, meaning locals have to sacrifice their basic needs in order to afford food.
In Africa Today Sports, Waswa Bossa has been sacked as Express FC head coach days after a disappointing 2-2 draw against bottom side Toro United left them 10 points behind title rivals and current leaders Vipers SC.
Express has confirmed that Bossa's assistant James Odoch will be placed in temporary charge with the club, also revealing their intentions to appoint a permanent replacement at the end of the season. Bossa signed a one-year contract extension in August, but leaves after overseeing only 3 victories in the last 10 games, a run which has effectively ended their title hopes. While the results may not have been necessarily disappointing to warrant a sack, Bossa leaves after shattering relationships with many officials at the club. Bossa's position was discussed by Express officials on Sunday, following a reported heated brawl with several officials after the game against Toro before the announcement of his dismissal was made on Monday. A statement from Express said that Express Football Club would like to confirm that Waswa Bossa is leaving his role as head coach with immediate effect. There has been an apparent rift between Bossa and his supporters at the club, with the coach openly expressing animosity and anger towards the club's chief executive Isaac Mwesigwa. In Express's opening game of the season, which they lost 2-0 to Arua Hill, Bossa openly accused Mwesigwa of working to sabotage and infrustrate him, saying that he paid people to make sure that Express loses games. It is a statement that also saw him receive disciplinary sanctions, with the coach receiving a 3-game suspension to go with a fine of 2 million Uganda shillings.
Well, thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the Bright.